Van Life 101 Part 3. Thank you for joining me so far. So, at this point, I mean, what I'm going to say, because we're starting to get like halfway through the lecture, and I, if you see these breaks, the way that TikTok works and the way that my crappy internet works where I'm at, I have to record the 10 minutes and then I have to upload it for like 20, 30 minutes. I got to find other stuff to do and then I come back to it. So sorry about that. In the future, all of this will be seamless, whatnot. But let's get into part three. So now I've gone over the fact that you need to keep this RV small. You need to keep it uh, as small as you can possibly handle it. You want to try not to be constantly moving this thing. The RVs are designed really to go like 3 hours or 4 hours at a time because their engines actually overheat. Especially when you've got your own personal stuff in the RVs. You can look at other videos and test this out. But the Department of Transportation gives guidelines to companies that make RVs, and they say your vehicle can only be 20,000 pounds, let's say. And when the vehicle rolls off the assembly line with nothing in it except for, the furniture and the curtains and all that stuff, but I'm talking like no plates, no food, none of your clothing, none of your personal items. It's usually like 10 pounds or 11 pounds lighter than the maximum that that vehicle should be able to support. So everything that you bring with you is just extra added weight, which is going to kill your gas mileage, and it's going to be unsafe at certain levels for you to drive because the vehicle's not going to stop well enough. And going up hills, you're going to have all types of problems with a heavy rig. You got to do it nice and slow, and sometimes you have to stop. If you're going up a mountain range, especially like a place like Colorado or in Nevada, like close to the Grand Canyon and stuff, you're going up or Blue Ridge, like the Blue Ridge Mountains. Oh, Jesus. Talk about hell on earth is driving an RV through the Blue Ridge Mountains, Deals Gap and stuff. I've done it. And I can tell you, I don't know how I pulled it off. What stressful shit. I am an amazing driver. Okay. Like I drive. That's my thing. I can pilot, I can drive. I am an amazing driver, and I would never do it again in an RV, not in a million years. I was on the cliff's edge a majority of the time. The brakes have a tendency to heat up. Sorry about that. Brakes have a tendency to heat up, and they get red, like fire red, and then they stop working. Okay, so if you don't pull over and stop, if you're going uphill a lot, every half hour you got to stop for like 2 hours, let that engine cool down, let the brakes cool down. And that's cool if you're in an RV because then you can just, put on the TV. If you're in a big RV, you can put on, like I was, put on the TV, break out something out of the refrigerator, hang out, play some video games on your portable device, whatever. In a van, you don't really have this problem. That's why I like vans. I love those Sprinter vans. They're fantastic. I used one of those for like 6 months. Awesome. But yeah, in a big old RV, you're going to have those reoccurring issues where going uphill is going to be very problematic, and it's very easy to blow an engine. You have to watch the temperature gauge going up and down hills on the engine. You'll feel the cabin, you'll feel the heat coming in from the floor and stuff when you're doing those types of treks. Those vehicles are not built for that. I don't think, if we're just being honest, I don't really think RVs are built to be used. I think that they're built to be built. Like the perfect use for an RV is to have some warehouse somewhere that's got a roof and it's like just dark in the warehouse. And now you have this RV in the warehouse with maybe some AstroTurf on the ground in the warehouse. And that thing never leaves the warehouse and it's always hooked into power. That's the best use of an RV. I mean, that's when it's at optimal, like if it's in a showroom. But once it hits the open road, all bets are off. The thing starts getting its ass kicked by the elements and by the wind of you driving. And sometimes these things have a tendency to separate from the chassis. Guys, all types of problems in RVs. The bigger the RV, the more money you're just pissing away. Now, if you have the money, who cares? Go ahead and do it. That's fantastic. Tow a Lamborghini if you want to. Just go hard. You only live once. I support you 110%. But if you're anything like me that decides, hey, at 40 years old, I want to go out and do this before I get too old to do it, and I really don't have a whole lot of cash, and I'm going to buy a secondhand RV or a third-hand RV, which I highly recommend, always do that. Always buy somebody else's depreciated assets, always. Cars, everything, always buy everything depreciated to the max. This way, when you turn around and you want to sell it, you can sell it for pretty much what you bought it for, like the exact same thing. There's no harm, no foul, no loss. And best part about the RV experience, and this is something that you shouldn't overlook ever, is that when it's done and you've sold the rig and you've finished with that, there most times I would say like 98% of the people that I talk to that have done that, once you get that out of your system, you're kind of done with it. Like you're not going to want to do it again. So I did it for 2.5 years. Then I took like a 6-8 month break. Then I went to a van and I did it solo for like a year and a half. And then I sold that and I did it out of a Tesla for a while. Smaller, always just smaller. And I'm done with it. Like it's out of my system. I can say that, I traveled to all the places I wanted to go. I saw all the things I wanted to do. I did all the camping and fishing and hiking and all that stuff that I could ever want to do. That chapter of my life is done because I did it full time through that. I wasn't just some weekend warrior. So if you have this in your blood and you want to do it, this isn't going to be a permanent thing. Nobody does this permanently. Okay, so just keep this in mind. That 20-year loan, that's not something you're really ever going to use. There is no way in hell you're going to keep that RV for 20 years. And the interest on those loans is ridiculous. So take my advice, go with like a second-hand, smaller unit. The smaller, the better. The higher the mileage, the better sometimes, because now the engines are broken in. You want like a diesel engine. Diesel is like crucial. My dad taught me that. I come from an RV family. My dad was just stickler for diesel. Because diesel engines are what's in all of the 18 wheelers, and those things have a million miles on them all day. Like they get tons of mileage. So those diesel engines are awesome. They suck in the cold weather. They're terrible in cold weather. And so is an RV, generally speaking. RV has water tanks for your clean water and your dirty water after you go to the bathroom. And in cold weather, like freezing weather, those tanks will freeze. And then as you drive with that frozen material, they'll crack and they'll break. And then you'll have to replace those tanks and the water lines going to them. And talk about expensive. I mean, you could be looking at like 10 grand to do something like that. So it's important that you keep yourself in that warm belt of air that I'm talking about. If you go too hot, if you're in the 80s RVing somewhere, and God forbid that AC goes out, which they always do, and you try and do the window thing, you're going to die in that vehicle. So keep it small. I suggest you got to keep in your temperature range. You got to be realistic. Maybe, just maybe, it's a pipe dream. Maybe this is not something for you, but it is for you. Then take my advice on this and follow these steps. And remember, you don't want to be relying on the kitchen. You don't want to be relying on the shower that's in the RV. I never used my shower, ever. I used it at state parks and I used it at campgrounds.